Hello to everyone at the moment, everyone who is present here. So yes, please switch on the cameras if possible. It's nice to see faces, to speak to people in our online world. That's always great. Great to see so many people I know and so many faces I don't know, and so many faces I haven't seen for quite a while. Great to connect. And the topic of our today webinar is executive presence. So we will be exploring this from different angles. I will try make an attempt to define the executive presence because this is quite a modern topic from one end. From another end, there is a very big deficit of the definition of executive presence. So my idea here today is to share with you my view on the executive presence or the presence itself. And since in leadership, in the top management, the executive presence, the topic of the presence is not very explored yet. So I will offer us to look into different other disciplines where the presence is already acknowledged as a fundamental skill, and we will try to learn something from there. And at the same time, we will look into the core of the presence. So where the presence is born. So where is the birthplace of the presence, where we as humans are learning presence, and how. Because that mechanism might be a good help for us to understand how can we continue cultivate that wonderful ability. But to start, I want to do something that we within Companions for Leadership are doing quite often on our programs, and this is basically the exercise of presencing. So I would like to invite you to do the full stop, to have around 1 minute of a silence, of presencing, and if possible, if your environment is supporting that, so you can just put away all the distractions that you have at the moment, and try to concentrate, try to feel yourself where you are, feel your body, feel your breathing, feel your emotions, whatever is happening with you at the moment, just try to acknowledge that, right? Let's try to do that. It's not going to be a difficult exercise for most of us, but anyway, it might be an experience. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing that moment. So before I start diving into the topic, let me tell you a little bit about who am I. So my name is Artur Chernikov. I'm based in Latvia today, originally from Belarus. Big part of my life, big part of my career has been in the leadership in the field of executives myself. So I've been leader in the banking sphere for over the 10 years, and then shifted my perspective towards help people and help teams in their development. And I do this with the means of coaching mainly, and also work as a leadership facilitator, leadership trainings facilitator, leadership consultant. I'm the speaker in different conferences. One of them is TEDx, many others within the open formats and the closed one, co-author of the book Purpose, wonderful name, Purpose, how decisions in life helps to shape our leadership journeys. A part of everything else, I also do exercise and do teach yoga. If I would summarize all the activities which I'm doing in my life, so I would come to three. So that's the topic of leadership, that's the topic of coaching, and topic of mindfulness. So these are the three things that I'm very passionate about. And observing those, I'm noticing that there is something that unites these three subjects, and that's the topic of a presence. So that's why I'm very curious to explore this topic myself from different angles, and very curious and joyful to share my insights and to find out something more within that topic, because it gives a lot of treasure in different disciplines. Why not in leadership? Why not in the world of the top management as well? So when it comes to the executive presence, one of the quotes which I found quite immediately when I've started browsing the internet on that topic, there was that the executive presence is the new currency of leadership in today's business world. Whatever it means, I quite agree with that. I think that there is a lot of truth in that. However, there is lack of understanding of what does executive presence mean by itself, and how can one develop it. So when I do lead the leadership programs, I often ask the participants, the leaders, to look around the great leadership examples in their lives. Get those examples, and basically most of the people are saying something about the executive presence in their own world or words, but I'm also questioning them. So how does these great leaders influence in you? So what was the influence of the great leader on you? So what is the outcome of experiencing the great leader, the leader with the executive presence? Here I'd like to share with you one of the snapshots from one of the groups I worked with lately. So these are some of the things, some of the words which I gathered there. So those people are influencing leaders in the way that I become more honest, I become more motivated, aspired, self-confident, open, better connector, better learner, growing better, trusting better, influencing others in my turn. So lots of great things, isn't it? So it feels like when we are learning from the great leadership examples, so then we can employing those skills, employing those leadership skills, we can give a lot of good things to others. Further on, I was looking for the other definition of what is the executive presence is, and I'm going to share with you a few of them over here. But I also invite you to use the chat here and to write down the word, maybe one or two, the phrase, like what is your association with the executive presence when you hear it? So when you hear executive presence, so what does it associated with in your world? Just try to find out something here. Charisma, yeah, Leila, thank you. What else? Deep listening, empathy, inspiration. Yeah, when you talk when you walk in the room, the atmosphere is like this, that you feel it. Yeah, very much agree. Wisdom and maturity, being in now, be present. You are here. Mindfulness. Yeah, influence and connection, social intelligence. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing this. And this is very much aligned with the slide I showed just a minute ago, And it's also very much aligned with what I see people are writing about the executive presence. So that's the internet journal Indeed is saying about these 8 characteristics of the leadership, of an executive presence, sorry. Composure, connection, confidence, credibility, character, command, charisma, consciousness, right? A lot of great words. All of them starting with C. I'm not sure if that's a coincidence or not, but let it be. But it doesn't really give an understanding of what do I need to develop within the executive presence in order to have all the skills. So I'm not sure how for you, but for me, all these great characteristics sounds like an outcome of having and employing an executive presence. So if I embed the executive presence, so then I can be a great connector, I can be confident, I sort of have and visualize and verbalize my character, charisma, consciousness, and so on and so forth. But what it takes for me to develop. There is another source which I want to share with you over here. That's the GP Strategy Journal, and they're a little bit more concise. So they talk about the 4 things here: confidence, awareness, resilience, and effective communication. Yeah, I think from all the sources which I studied, I think this is something that I most agree with, right? So the executive presence, in my own opinion, is the mostly associated with these 4 characteristics. But I think that the key to understanding of executive presence is in the its naming itself. So the presence is the key word here. The presence is the most important word here. So from that perspective, I'd like to share with you my interpretation of a definition of the presence. So I would say that an executive presence is an ability to manage my own attention and choose perception. Ability to manage my own attention. So where is my attention at the moment? How large is it? And then within that understanding, within this awareness of my attention, I'm choosing the focus. I'm choosing where do I apply that attention to. So I'm choosing the angle of the perceiving the situation. And that's what the executives with a great executive presence do. Right, so they aware of the all surrounding. They have this 360 degrees view, and at the same time, they choose where they focus their attention to. So this is the definition which I want you to browse a little and to see where's the complexity of it. Where's the complexity of managing my own attention? Because when you hear this definition, one might say that, okay, but what's the difficulty, right? I can manage my attention and I can manage my choice as well. But is it really so? Because sometimes we're not aware of something that we are not aware of. I want to share here some graphics with you. So if we consider the amount of my executive presence of this yellow circle over here, right? When I'm alone, when all of you haven't joined this meeting, I was sitting here in this room alone, right? And I felt myself very present, super present. So I've been here with myself, like full of consciousness, full of awareness. I knew where my attention is. I knew what I want to focus. But then as soon as someone is entering the room, right, my attention starts spreading in different directions, right? So I need to welcome you. I need to remember what I will be talking about. I see some faces which are triggering some stories from the past and so on and so forth. So a lot of things going on in my mind at the same time. And all things might be called distractors. I will use this word at the moment. So I have a lot of distraction. And all those distractions that we might have in our world, we might map into 5 different categories for the sake of simplicity. So that's the physical distractors, social distractors, emotional distractors, intellectual distractors, and perhaps spiritual distractors, right? So just to speak up to a few of them, talking about the physical ones. I'm here in Latvia at the moment. We have minus 10 degrees. In my room now is pretty cold. Yeah, so I have my cup of hot tea here just to get my hands warm at the moment, right? But the fact that it's pretty chilly here distracts me. So part of my attention is not here with you, not here with the topic which I want to talk about, but it's within my hands and within this freeziness which I feel over here. Social distractors, right? As I described, people entering the room, everyone draw a little bit of my attention. I'm not as present. I'm somewhere else. I'm in in other thoughts and in some emotions, because the social environment is often triggering some emotions within me, right? Not necessarily, but sometimes yes. From another side, I might just wake up in the morning and feel that, okay, I have a great mood, or I have a bad mood, right? So something within my biology is triggering that emotion which I'm experiencing at the moment. Am I in control of that emotion? Am I choosing which state of mind shall I be or not? That's the question of presencing. So if I'm not present enough, so that's mean that emotional or biological distractor has blocked my presencing over here. Intellectual one, right? Different type of thoughts, different type of ideas which are coming to my head all the time, right? I'm talking with you, I have my line of thoughts, but then new thoughts are coming in, right? And those new thoughts, new ideas want to distract what I'm going to say over here, right? And I'm always need to be aware of all these distractors which I'm surrounded by, and then make a choice, choose my perception. Again, managing my attention and choosing the perception. So eventually people who are working on the executive presencing, they're working on their ability to enlarge their attention, to go out of this small yellow circle over here to make it bigger, to ensure that all possible distractors are within my circle of presencing. So when they are within my circle of presencing, they will never disappear. That's the trick, right? The unfortunate trick of our life, right? Distractors will never disappear. We will always be distracted. But we can influence our choice, right? When I'm aware that I'm cold, right? I can take care of myself, or I can switch off my attention from the cold hands towards the topic of my discussion, towards the webinars, towards you guys. So this is the concept which I want to share with you. That's my understanding of the presencing, of executive presencing. And again, when I'm alone and when I'm working in a close circle of people, that's quite easy to do. But when I'm start being surrounded by the challenges, then it's getting a little bit difficult. And the challenge, that's, I think most of you would agree with me, that's something that we're experiencing all over the world at the moment, in our world, right? So all these famous abbreviations like VUCA world, BANI world, whatever you name it, right? Which are triggering basically that we are living in a very uncertain, very high speed, volatile, complex, fragile world when we cannot predict much. So being an executive, being in the top leadership positions, one of the things which you can do and you can continue developing within yourself is your ability to manage your own attention. That's still within your zone of control, right? So when you do that, so then you can include all those distractors, which are volatile, complex, ambiguous, whatever else, nasty words, they can be characterized by within your circle of presence, and you can choose where do you concentrate your attention to. Yeah. So in the next part of this conversation, I want to share with you some of other disciplines where the presence is acknowledged as the core competency, where the presence is an important thing to develop, to succeed. One of them is golf. Yeah, if you ever played golf or if you ever been observing this discipline, so you know that in order to play golf, you need to really calm down. You need to be present. If you're playing golf, if you want to concentrate on your ball and make it into the hole, but your mind in taking decisions about the business elsewhere, so you have a bad chances over here. So maybe that's why lots of executives, lots of top managers love to practice golf, because it gives them an opportunity to develop a presence, to develop that skill of calming down and concentrating your attention. Another example, which I do my personal experience with, is a tango dance. Yeah, so in tango is an improvisation dance, meaning that you do not train the certain movements which you will be repeating when you're dancing, right? Which means that you, vice versa, you train your ability to be present, to listen to your partner, to feel and sense your partner, to listen to the music, to feel and sense the rhythm of the music. And then while the music is going on, you're feeling your partner, you're feeling that music, and you're predicting what's supposed to be the next movement, right? So that's predictability is the key component of the tango dance. And for that, you need to be absolutely present. You need to be here and now, because otherwise, if you're still considering in your mind, okay, what my partner has done a minute ago, and you're trying to respond to what has happened a minute ago, you lost the dance now. You're not here. Another discipline where the present is an essential core competency, and now we're coming from the entertainment type of a world to more hardcore world. That's the osteopathy, the therapeutical osteopathy. So the therapist who is doing this needs to develop a huge amount of the sensitivity within himself or herself. The therapists who are learning the osteopathy, the training itself often goes in a very weird environment, right? One of the training which is happening in Latvia, I know, so it happens in the absolutely quiet environment, like the therapist goes to the room where it's absolutely quiet, they're not talking, and it's dark there. So there is no light and no sound there. So they're developing their ability to be present and developing their sensitivity throughout that presence. Because if the therapist is doing his assessment, his interpretation of his sensitivity wrongly towards the client, so it might cause some injury to the client. All right, so it's very important for them to develop that ability. One more example of the presence is the freediving. That's my new experience in my own life. So I've just came back from the Tenerife where I was practicing freediving, and I learned a lot from that. So my first lesson of freediving was in an open ocean with huge waves, and we had that rope which was put on the into the ocean from the boat, and I had to with that rope dive in like meter by meter. We had the length of 17 meters to dive in. And the difficulty here for the first runners of a freediving, the exercise is to dive in on the full exhale. So you do your full exhale, your lungs are empty, no air, and then you need to dive into that. So you can imagine here the level of the stress which you might get, because you don't have an oxygen over here, yet you need to have a lot of focus on controls, because every 30 centimeters of a dive, you need to decompress your ears, because otherwise they will be damaged. So 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters, you need to assess your ears, you need to assess an ability of your body to do another 30 centimeters. And at the same time, you need to be conscious that you need to go up, you need to return, right? So you need to have enough oxygen to return. So the only way to do that is to be absolutely here and now, to be absolutely present, right? So this is one of the first things which freedivers are doing. They're learning the ability and they're developing the ability of a presence. And later I will share with you how. Does that all make sense? That's something that's familiar. Maybe there are some other disciplines which you're aware of, which you know, where the presence is important, where the present, kind of recognized as something that you need to develop. Yeah, you can write down in the chat. Let's enlarge our understanding here. Yeah, cliff climbing, parenting. Oh, exactly. Thank you. Aikido. Yeah, absolutely. I think that there are many more. And actually, if you want to do something good, so then you can take whatever discipline, and it would be requiring the presencing. Maybe we're just not conscious enough about that. There are one more thing which I want to share with you, which describe presencing in quite a sophisticated way. And that's the world which I'm familiar with very well. So that's the world of coaching. So in coaching, presence is recognized as one of the core competency out of 8. So presence is the core ability of the coach to be able to perform the coaching duty, right? Coach is not given advices. Coach is not there to support his or her client. Coach is there to create an environment where a client would feel confidence, where client would feel influence and inspiration to explore his or her own world. So within the coaching world, the International Coach Federation has put up a little bit of efforts to define a presence, right? So coach is supposed to maintain presence. So let's just see how the coaching world describe the presence. So definition of the presence is that coach is fully conscious and present with the client, employing the style that is open, flexible, grounded, and confident. Right? So I'm fully conscious and I'm basically displaying, visualizing, showing up 4 characteristics: confidence and groundedness, and then openness and flexibility. Let's look into a little bit more details which ICF Coaching Federation gives us as a gift here in understanding presencing. So what does it mean? How can one do the presencing? So coach remains focused, observant, empathetic, and responsive to the client. Right? So I'm fully aware of what's going on with the client. I'm aware of my attention, and I choose to focus my attention on my client as the coach. Another thing that a coach demonstrates curiosity during the coaching process, right? So I continue to be curious, to learn more, not to stop with what I know already. So I'm always go an extra mile in my understanding. I always challenge my understanding as the coach. Coach manages one's emotions to stay present with the client. Right. So as the coach, I work with my emotional destructor all the time. Right. So I'm aware of what type of emotions are climbing up from my inner world at the moment. I'm getting aware of them, and I'm choosing what to do with those emotions: to react on them or to contain them to deal with after session. But at the same time, coach demonstrate confidence in working with a strong client's emotion, right? So that's basically the social destructor, which we discussed, right? So when the client become emotional, super happy or super joyful, or vice versa, tears, crying, right? So how do I sustain my present? Do I share that emotion with client or not? in the way of the coach, I'm aware of that difficult emotion, right? I'm aware, with my span of attention, I'm aware of what's going on with the client. And then out of that awareness, I'm choosing what to do, how to perceive that situation and what to do further. Coach comfortable working in the space of unknowing, right? Actually, unknowing is the normal environment of the coach, because as the coach, I never know what my client will bring in the coaching session. Moreover, I never know what my client will leave from the coaching session with. So I'm constantly developing something with my curiosity, but I never know what will be the result of that action, of that act. And I'm okay with that part of my normal. And moreover, coach create and allows space of silence, pauses, and reflections, right? Because within the process of a silence, the very important thing is going on. The new neuron connections are getting developed when we are getting silent. Yeah. So all the things which client has accumulated so far, building up into the certain neuron connection in the space of a silence. So I think when talking about the executive presence, there is a lot of things to learn from the world of coaching, a lot of things that can be copy-paste and give some guidelines for the executives in how to develop the presencing in the world of leadership here. One more angle which I want to share with you about the presencing, and that's my favorite view on the presence. The presence is best understood from its opposite, from the absence. Because when I'm not present, then I'm absent. And you can just ask yourself, am I present now or I'm absent? I can be present here talking or listening to this webinar. I can be present here with my body, but my attention is somewhere else, solving something that what I will be eating for the dinner, or preparing for some other webinar, or maybe you got some idea, you heard some idea here from me, which you think that, okay, I need to apply it tomorrow, right? So part of your attention is not here anymore. So part of your attention is over there. And when your attention is there, that means that you're absent here, right? So in order to understand either you're present or you can just ask yourself, isn't I'm absent at the moment, right? And if you are absent, recognizing your absence brings you back to the presence. Because when you acknowledge your absence, it's a doors to return to the presence. At that exact moment when you recognize your absence, you're getting back to your presence. Getting back to the leadership agenda. In the world of leadership, presence is getting recognized and developed as well. And one of the persons who have invested a lot into the world of presencing in the leadership environment is Otto Scharmer. And Otto Scharmer is an author of the concept which is called Theory U, and that's his book which you see here. Otto Scharmer is talking about the presencing as a fundamental core for the inspiration and innovation in the modern business. He's working at the MIT in USA, and he is consulting lots of the top companies of the world in terms of creativity and innovation. And his take here is that in order to create something innovative, you need to let go, right? And his U-shape over here, which you see in the book, let me just reorganize my screen a little here to see that U-shape. Yeah, this U shape is saying that basically, in order to innovate, you need to go from here, from the space of knowing, from the space of your expertise, down this U to the space of presence, right? So the very bottom point of this U shape here is the space of a presence. So when I'm present, I don't know anything. I'm letting go everything what I knew before, and I yet don't know what's coming. And what Otto Scharmer is saying, that at that point, the magic happens, because at that particular point, I'm getting an access to not an external knowledge, but to my inner knowledge, to something that I have within, to my wisdom. And that wisdom gives such an interesting possibility to predict the future, to predict my next step. Yeah, so that's why the headline of the book you see here, Theory U, that's the leadership from the emerging future, right? Because when you connect in the presence, you start foreseeing what will happen next. Maybe not too far away, but you have that intuition which is helping you, which is supporting you in prediction of the future. So Otto Scharmer, part of everything else, has opened up something that is called the Presencing University. Presencing Institute, it's called. And Presencing Institute is doing once a year, I think, the course which is called ULAB. I very much recommend to go through that if you haven't done it yet. It's a wonderful experiment of doing all those exercises which Otto Scharmer has combined throughout his research and his life, and gives an opportunity for all the participants, and that's thousands of participants from all over the world, to experiment and experience this U-shape in real life. And that's an online training, so very much recommend if needed. Yeah, so if to summarize all those ideas into something concise, so let's go into the root here. So if we bring up all those ideas about the presencing together, so we literally can come to two types of practices. And these two types of practices is a practice of calming, relaxing, letting go, and the practice of focusing. So if to divide presencing into something more concise, so presencing consists of these two parts, calming down and focusing. In other words, you might say that I need to, in order to focus my attention, in order to choose my perception, I need to calm down all the distractors within myself. Calming down and focusing, right? So these are two things which are essential for the presencing. Cultivating an ability to calm down, exhale from one end, and choosing my intention, choosing my next step, choosing my perception. How do you do that? Here is the few very sophisticated ways how to do that. One, for instance, is standing on the nails. Quite a popular nowadays, has been developed an ages ago. So basically, you go with your feet on the nails, and then you're experiencing a huge destruction, a huge pain destruction within yourself, and then within that pain, you need to practice something in order to let go that feeling and that sensing of the pain, to find out the relaxation, and then within that relaxation, choose the focus point. Another extraordinary practice, this one, the standing on the nails, for instance, for example, is a very great practice. I'm not sure I would recommend it for everyone to do, but if you really want to crack the space while experimenting. Another very extraordinary practice is the swimming in the ice cold water, right? So it's similar to the previous one, but even more extraordinary, because in previous one you're experiencing the destruction only on the surface of your feet. When you're in the ice cold water, you're experiencing the destruction with your full body. right? Yet you need to find out the space of the warmth within yourself. You need to go out of that interpretation of the pain, suffering, and find out the calmness within yourself. And then out of that calmness, you cultivate the focus. Again, I'm not recommending this for everyone, but if you really want to crack the surface, so you might experiment with that. All these super sophisticated practices are literally coming and well described by Shenzhen Yang in his book Breakthrough the Pain, Breakthrough the Chronic and Acute Pain. I'm not going to kind of to re-talk his book, but basically what Shenzhen Yang is saying, he has given a very wonderful formula which is used by the previous practices I showed, standing on the nails and ice cold water. And this formula looks like this, that suffering equal to the pain multiplied by the resistance to that pain. Right. So, and the idea of the presencing is to stop resisting the world, stop resisting what is going on with you at the moment. So, as more you minimize the resistance to the external factors, to the stress level you're experiencing, to the uncertainty that you're experiencing, to the tension that you're experiencing, the less suffering, the more ability to be present and concentrate, focus your attention to something that's really meaningful. Yeah, so I find this formula very valuable. You can just apply it and use in different contexts. So what it gives all in all in the end. The idea of the presencing is that when you live, when you sustain the present moment, it gives you an access to the energy. And when you start your following action from the space of the presence equal space of energy, then you make your next action alive, right? So your next action will be fulfilled with energy. That's why those people who are treated being great at executive presence, as some of you have been writing, when you're entering the room, where the person with a good presencing, you literally feel it, because that person is so alive. It has an atmosphere. You really feel the energy of that person in the room, because the only source where you can get that energy is the present moment. Energy lives only in the present moment. Let's do a quick check here with you guys. A question. So let's try to assess your ability to stay present. So let's take a scale from 1 to 10, right? So when 10 is that I'm absolutely absent, and when 1 is I'm absolutely absent, and 10 is that my presence is top notch in all the different circumstances. And here are just a few examples of the circumstances. So like, how do I sustain presence while talking with the colleagues, driving the car, while planning or making decisions, taking decisions, while eating? Am I present when I'm eating? When spending time with my family? Right. So how is my presence there while surfing the social media? So what's the level of my presencing there? So let's just share some figures here in the chat. So from the scale from 1 to 10, on average, right, in different circumstances, how do you assess your presencing ability? Yeah, of course, I understand that it's different in different circumstances, obviously. Yeah, thanks, Cecile. But yeah, let's take some average. Yeah, you can just kind of try to observe yourself, try to feel, okay, this is the situation where I'm more present, and this is a situation where my present is absolutely distracted. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So there is something that you can still develop, right, on average. So no one can say here, as far as I see so far, that, I'm 100% present in all the circumstances and all the conditions. Time to time, we're losing the presence. And then noticing that loss gives me a possibility to return. So when and how can we learn the presencing? I want to share with you, and that's a very difficult exercise for me at the moment. I want to share with you the piece of the theory which is called the spiral dynamics. That's a really huge vertical development model, and sometimes you need weeks of intense training to understand it. But I will try to do impossible. We'll try to explain the spiral dynamics in 5 minutes, or maybe less. So, and why? Because I think that understanding of the spiral dynamics gives you an understanding of where presence lives, where we have an ability to develop presencing in our life, in our growing up stage, and how can we learn from that in our adulthood. So here I will be comparing us humans with a computer. So imagine the brand new computer, just created, no software installed yet. So in order to sell that computer, you need to have a good software on it, right? So you need to download certain software. I will call them drivers, right? We humans needs the same, right? So Claire Graves, who have developed the spiral dynamics, has identified the 6 developmental stages on the first level and 2+ stages on the second level. So we're interested now in the first 6 levels. So that's what I'm going to talk here. These are the 6 drivers which we are getting installed throughout our first 20 to 25 years. So naturally, our biology is built up in the way that we have an ability to install the certain drivers throughout this first 20 years of our life. So let's just explore what are they responsible for. So the first one, the batch driver, so the colors, this is something that Spiral Dynamics uses, so I will use them here as well. So the batch driver is the first one, and it's naturally might be developed within us during the first 6 months from the birth. And this basically, you can just imagine the kid, which is just newborn. So the kid has only the body intelligence. There is no intellect yet. The kid cannot distinguish emotions. The kid can only assess the world through his or her body, right? So that body intelligence gives us the understanding to distinguish bad from good. Am I feeling good or bad? Am I feeling comfortable or discomfortable? It gives us a possibility to connect to inner voice, to intuition, to recognize the different attributes and learning to recognize them, right? So the kid at once might just look at his or her hand and see that, oh my God, that has a shape. And that's apparently my hand. That's attributed to me, not to someone else. So the next one, which is a little bit more understandable. So from 6 months up until 4 years, the next purple driver is getting installed. So this is our first and very deep relationship lesson for the kids. So we are learning how to relate myself towards my parents, first of all, towards my first closest circle, being included to them. Being curious, exploring the world, trusting, being loved, anchoring myself. So these are the characteristics of what this purple driver gives me while it's installed properly. And the next one from 5 to 8 years, so the next red one is developed. So by this age, the kit, our computer, has accumulated already quite a lot of power. And it wants to check what it was, or what are the boundaries of the world. So it pushes the boundaries. It's explored the world in different direction. And this red driver gives an access to the power, gives a lot of power, gives a lot of winning energy to the kid who is developing it, and gives an opportunity to move the boundaries in the adulthood as well. The next one is the blue one. So from age around from 9 to 12 years, that's exactly where the school starts. So the thinking which kid has that, I cannot fight everyone in my surrounding. I cannot push out the boundaries endlessly because it requires lots of energy. So maybe instead I can agree with someone. I can develop some discipline. I can neglect some of my own needs for the needs of everyone. Functionality, planning, these are the things that can be developed here on the blue one. The next one is orange. So that's our access to the success. So that's the teenagers. So again, teenagers are starting pushing out the boundaries, but not in the physical way, but in emotional, intellectual. So they kind of go in an extra mile in developing. So what's more can be explored in the world? What more can be created in the world? Something that haven't been existing before. So that's the source of a strive for the personal success. That's what this driver is responsible for. And the next sixth one is the green one. So the green one developed in the adulthood, and it shifts the perspective towards the global thinking, towards the needs of the humanity as such, towards searching and looking for the purpose, for the harmony, gives access to the vulnerability, challenge yourself, gives access to the complexity of the world, understanding that complexity and realizing that I alone cannot manage that complexity. We need to gather our forces. So that's the space of a co-creation, collaboration. And that's what this driver gives. So out of the description of these 6 things, so where the presence lives, where the presence is installed. Surprisingly enough, in the very beginning, that fundamental skill which we've been discovering so far by this joke of the life is developed in just first few months of our birth, since our birth. So that's basics of the beginning is developed within this 6 months. And then if that driver is not installed properly, so then, bad chances. But I think that why I'm sharing this with you today, not to point out that, we have bad chances, but to point out an opportunity here, because we can then look into, so what exactly is developed on that badge driver? So what exactly is developed over here? And there is a few things which are developed here. So one thing is my ability to stay silent with no action, right? That's what kids do, right? So they basically sleep often, and they don't have much expectations. So returning to the space of a silence and not having too much of expectations, that's one of the practice which we can learn here. One hint towards the practices which we can learn here. Another very important hint is the mechanism which is developed here in this first 6 months. And the mechanism is following: that I'm sleeping and I'm feeling well and comfortable as the kid. Then suddenly I made a pee. I feel wet. It's discomfort for me. So I start crying. And someone, probably mom or the pop, comes to me and changes my clothes. And I again start feeling well, warm, dry, right? And I'm back to comfort. The next iteration, I'm hungry, right? And I start feeling discomfort, right? And that discomfort leads me to the reaction of crying again. So my mom comes to me, feed me, I start feeling comfort, I'm relaxing, sleeping back. And this is the mechanism which is happening many, many times throughout first 6 months. And that mechanism, if we remove the attribution of it, looks like this. I have a discomfort, which is changing with comfort. Then again, discomfort, and it's always changing with discomfort. And since Keith has the body intelligence only, so his mind is not determinated yet, meaning that what happens with one piece of myself, I apply that knowledge for everything in my life, right? So that mechanism is building up into the sequence, that idea that every discomfort will be replaced with comfort, right? And that mechanism can be called the optimism, right? So for the kid is not worried as such about the feeding, because subconsciously kid knows that I will be fed eventually, right? Or I will feel dry and warm eventually, right? And this is kind of the natural conditions for us to build up the driver, that neuron connection within ourselves. Most of us, unfortunately, are not having this driver installed 100%. So something is happening, either due to our parents or due to other conditions. You know, this driver is not properly 100% well installed. And that's why we might be experiencing some difficulties in the world, in our surrounding. But we can learn from that a lot. So, yeah, let me show you the slide over here. So coming back to some practices here. So what can we learn from that? And here is the few practices that I would like to share with you. Few simplest practices, not those sophisticated ones, standing on the nails and ice cold water. You know, I'm not there to force you to practice those, but there are more simple things that you can do on a daily basis in order to cultivate or reinforce your presence in conditions. So let's look and practice into a few of them. And let's start with calming down practices. Yeah. So I have something going on here with my slides. Yeah, calming down practices. So first of them. So in order to reactivate or reinforce that optimism mechanism, you can just do the following. And let's do it all together. Let me just close the slide so then we'll be better seeing me. So you can just sit better, sit a little bit more comfortable here. So then you will be breathing. That's the breathing exercise that we will be doing. All right. The idea here to make an inhale with your mouth quite fast. Yeah, just get the oxygen into your lungs. And the second part is to do the exhale with your nose slower, right? Maybe 3 or 4 times longer than the inhale. Quick inhale, long, short nose exhale. Let's make another one. Yeah, so your inhale is one portion and exhale at least 3 times longer than the inhale. Basically, what's happening here, the inhale, that's the moment of a comfort. When I have an oxygen inside, I'm experiencing comfort. When I'm having a long exhale, I'm experiencing discomfort. As longer your exhale, as higher the discomfort. right? As longer you can hold that exhale, maybe 10 times. Some people are making it 15 times longer than the inhale. As the quicker you're reinforcing that optimism mechanism, which is supposed to be built up in the childhood in this first 6 months, right? So this practice, you can practice it maybe a few minutes a day, but by this you're just rewiring yourself being 30, 40, 50, 60 years to that 6-month child who has that ability to switch from comfort to discomfort on subconscious level. Meaning that every time after, when you will be facing the difficulty, when you will be facing the challenge, you can reinforce that mechanism and use it. So you will not feel the anxiety as much as you feel without that exercise, because that mechanism is reinforced, because that mechanism is sort of recultivated, reactivated again. So this is one of the practices which I find very much valuable and super easy. For instance, for me as the speaker today, throughout already 1 hour and 4 minutes, I'm practicing this practice. Because when I'm talking, I do a quick inhales and long exhales. While I'm talking, I need to talk too much, maybe a lot, and that's all happens on the exhale, right? So when we are talking, we're basically practicing this. So all the speakers, singers, they're quite resilient. Just because they subconsciously reinforcing this mechanism by what they're doing on a daily basis. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, let's have a look at another practice. So I have a few more here one more to practice with you and a few more to share. So another practice is the sensing exercise, and that's again the calming down exercise. So I call it 3+1. I'll explain why. So let's just practice it together. So you need your 2 hands on your body. So you put your one hand on your leg and another hand on your chest. And your feet supposed to be on the floor. Right, feet on the floor, one leg on the one hand on the leg, another hand on the chest. You better close your eyes at the moment. And as if all your attention, all your brain, all your consciousness moves to your feet at the moment. Right, your feet is the only thing which is feeling the world now. All your attention is in the feet now. So you probably feel how the feet is connecting to the floor, maybe one toes to another, maybe the heaviness of your body over there. So whatever it is it. So you do not necessarily need to name it. You need to feel it. You need to sense it. Yeah. And now shift all your attention to your hand, which is laying on your knee, on your leg. All your attention, 100% of your attention in the surface of your palm. You might feel the difference between what the thumb and the index finger feel. Maybe some worse from the leg, or vice versa, the cold. Maybe you feel the surface of your clothes with your hand. Doesn't matter. Just be there, being there fully. All your attention in that leg, in that palm. And now shift all 100% of your attention into your another palm, into your another hand, which is on your chest. So all your sensation is there. You feel like the chest is rising on the inhale and dropping on the exhale. Any other things You don't name them, you just feel and sense them. And now move all your attention to the fourth point here, and that's the breathing. Start being aware of your breath. Inhale, exhale. And now the feet, all your attention in the feet. Now the hand which is on the leg. The hand which is on the chest. The breath. And now start feeling all these 4 points simultaneously. Feet, one hand, another hand, and the breath. Thank you. How does it feel? Yeah, hopefully you feel a little bit more present at the moment. So this is the sensation exercise. Why it's called 3+1? Because our mind is capable of keeping up 3 points of attention quite well enough. When we are adding the fourth point of attention, our conscious brain is breaking. Our front cortex says that, okay, I'm not capable of it. And it gives the power to the other systems of our body, of our brain. Right, and it works as a restart towards your body, right? Comparing yourself with the computer again. Sometimes when computer doesn't work, what the service desk says us to do, restart it, right? First things they ask us to do to restart it. So the sensing exercise works as a simple restart, right? When I'm sort of breaking with the fourth point of attention, I'm breaking my operational system and go into the default mode. That default mode is called the alpha state of our brain. So while restarted, I'm full of energy. So then I can start choosing the focus, choosing what do I strive for in the next minute. So structured journaling, that might be another great exercise of calming down. Right. We will not be practicing journaling here because it requires time, but I can just share with you quick guidelines. 9 minutes a day practice. Best in the morning, a little bit worse in the evening. So what do you do within that practice? You divide this 9 minutes. Let's take 10 minutes, actually. 10 minutes. You divide 10 minutes in 4 parts. One part you do download of your mind. So everything what's in your mind, all thoughts which you have in your mind, you just put them on the paper. You just kind of upload all the thoughts which in your brain on the paper, whatever the thought is. For instance, if you got the thought that I don't have thoughts, so you just write it down. I don't have thoughts because that's a thought, right? And you continue for 3 minutes only. The second part, the second 3 minutes, is the answer on the question, what do I want? I want this journaling to stop, to finish. I want a cup of coffee. I want someone to do me a massage. I want an increase of a salary. I want the peace in the world. You know, whatever comes to your mind, here is the answer on the question, what do I want? You just do this. 3 other minutes. Sasha, 3 minutes is too little. It might be, but you know, start with that. Better to start with the smaller things rather than bigger. Then you have better chances to succeed. Less resistance from your operational system. The last 3 minutes is the answer on the question, what am I thankful for? So literally, what am I appreciating? The possibility to be here on webinar, the possibility to have electricity in my house today, whatever comes to that we still have sun, that we have a new day, that my boss was kind to me today, that my subordinates has done their work properly, whatever comes as the appreciation for you now, you just put it down there. And basically by doing this, you're coming down, you're creating the space in your head. And then the 10th minute, 1 minute, you spend for answering the question, so what is my focus now? What is my focus today? If you do this practice in the morning, what is my single most important focus for today? Right? So you're coming down and focusing at the same time. So we're going to a next practice here. So sharing with you the other practices, yoga might be a great practice. So this is something that's very close to me, and that's something that I use as a calming down practice for me, sharing with others as well. Talking about the focusing practices, there is one which is a very strong, which I want to share with you. That's an answer on two questions practice. First question is, who am I? Yeah, quite a deep question, quite a big one. So let's make it a little bit more concise. Who am I now? In other words, what is my role now? What's my role now? And the second question is, what is the function of that role? What do I need to perform being in that role? Just to give you a quick example here, 1.5 months ago, me and my family been flying over to Tenerife for a month. So that's kind of, we've been in front of a nice times, warm weather in opposite to Latvia. And we went to the airport, and then suddenly in airport, I start feeling myself being very in quite a high anxiety, tension, stress. It's 4 people of my family, and then the parents of my wife who've been flying over with us. So we were 6 people, and I was kind of worried that we will manage everything on time, and a lot of different stress which I find in myself. And then at some point I noticed that, and I basically asked these 2 questions to myself: who am I now? Right? And then what I found out, that I'm not who am I now. I'm playing the role of the manager of 6 years, not 6 more, 7, 8 years ago. Because being the manager in the bank, I was flying quite a lot to different countries on the business trips. And I quite often been in a high stress. Right? So the fact that we entered the airport, something triggered within me that old identity of myself, the manager, and switched on that functionality of that manager within myself. I need to take care of everything. I need to experience stress. And that's what I start doing, right? And noticing that I'm switching off. But no, sorry, I'm not a manager now. I'm the man who is going with its family on the holidays. So what's my function then? I'm supposed to enjoy, right? And that's my focus now. My focus now is to enjoy, not to be stressed, not to take care of something, but to enjoy, right? And it's immediately shifted the perspective here. Quite a strong practice if you get used to this, if you get it into your routine. Very much recommend it. Another social practice which you might do here is go to your coach. Coaching is a wonderful practice of focusing, of choosing who you are, what do you want to do. Yeah, I see that we're a little bit over time at the moment, and that's actually all I wanted to share with you today. There is just a few more opportunities which I wanted to show you over here. So for the developing of the presencing. So if you have that wish, if you have that ability, Companions for Leadership run this great focusing program, which is called Self-Managing Leadership. And the next open program will be in Paris from 1st to 3rd of May. So we're doing the re-innovation of our website at the moment, so therefore I cannot post here the link, but you can just reach out to me over the email or any other source, and I will share with you more information about that. Me personally, I do the presencing, mindfulness, and yoga retreats in different parts of the world. In the coming months, there will be 3. So yeah, welcome to join. Those ones for now are in Russian language, so that's a limitation. The English ones are to come. And yeah, individual presencing sessions or coaching, that's something that I'm ready for to your exposure. So you can just book the session. I think we will share with you the presentation with those of you who have registered for that. So you will have these links. Or if in any other cases, you can just reach out to me over the email or phone. So if there is still some questions, or first of all, if you still have some time, yeah, so we can just have a little bit of a Q&A or comments. So what are you taking out of this? And yeah, anything else wise sharing?